North Korea warned Sunday that the upcoming US-South Korea military exercises are a reckless behavior driving the situation into the uncontrollable phase of a nuclear war. Pyongyang also declared that its army can target the United States anytime, and neither Guam, Hawaii, nor the U.S. mainland can dodge the merciless strike.
The kind of threats we're seeing from this Rodong Sinmun article, the newspaper, it's nothing new. We have consistently heard from North Korea when tensions are a little higher that they're accusing the United States of pushing the peninsula to the brink of a nuclear war. So this is what they're doing once again, saying specifically about these military drills, this reckless behavior, as they call it, is the reason for these increased tensions. Now, we do have those the US-South Korean joint military drills starting on Monday, Ulchi Freedom Guardian, and they'll be going for 10 days. We heard that they will go ahead as planned. The Pentagon releasing a statement saying there's about just over 17,500 US troops who will be part of this alongside South Korean troops and also some of the UN command, which is about 7 different countries from around the world will have representatives. So they are annual drills. The US consistently says that they are defensive, but it's simply not the way that North Korea sees it. They see them as provocative, and this is why we are seeing this kind of response from this article today. So as expected, North Korea increasing the rhetoric just ahead of these drills, as they often do. George?
Okay, so the rhetoric as expected from North Korea, and these drills as expected as they do carry on during these times, but is there a heightened sense of concern among people there, just given what we went through just a week ago?
Certainly the situation's different to what it's been in other years. There have been similarly tense times, some suggesting that this is more tense than it has been for many years. And I think the rhetoric on both sides last week being particularly high, or about 10 days ago, didn't really help matters, and certainly that provoked the North Koreans more than the measured responses we've seen from previous US administrations, previous South Korean administrations. But we heard from the South Korean president, Moon Jae-in, just on last week, and he said that there will not be another war on the Korean peninsula. He said he would do everything in his power to make sure that didn't happen. We saw measured remarks from the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State in the US, saying diplomacy, political, economic measures are what is needed to try and solve this issue with North Korea, but they have to have a viable military option as well. And just today, this Sunday, we know that the head of the US Pacific Command, Admiral Harry Harris, is here in Seoul. He's met with the South Korean defense minister, clearly talking about the increased threat from North Korea, but also here most likely to watch over those military drills starting on Monday.
The messages in Rodong Sinmun, the official government newspaper, come a day before the U.S. starts the Ulchi Freedom Guardian military exercises with South Korea. Tensions between the U.S. and North Korea have grown in recent weeks.
U.S. B-1 bombers taking off from Andersen Air Force Base on the island of Guam, part of daily operations at this strategic U.S. launch pad in the Western Pacific. 40% of Guam's economy depends on military spending, so installations like Andersen Air Force Base are small cities, home to thousands of service personnel and their family members. There are around 5,300 military personnel stationed at Andersen and at Guam's naval base. U.S. officers here emphasize Guam is more than just a military posting.
And the majority of the people here, we live here. So I live here, my wife lives here, my 2 daughters live here, my son lives here. We go to Tumon Bay, my son they go to school here, we go to Jeff's Pirates Cove. So we obviously have a vested interest in here. And we feel safe here right now. And that's what this continuous bomber presence does. It assures our allies and deters our adversaries.
It is Guam's military installations and its geographic proximity to the Korean peninsula that have made it the target of verbal threats from the North Korean regime.
Threat level has not changed.
Guam's Homeland Security advisor says it would only take 14 minutes for a missile to reach Guam from North Korea, provided the weapon penetrates multiple layers of missile defense. Local authorities also published this emergency fact sheet advising civilians what to do in the event of an attack from a missile armed with a nuclear warhead. And yet the governor insists the threat level to Guam has not been raised.
When the drum beats of war are being beaten so loudly, it's important to really be clear about the facts, and with the facts, represent them to the people, and also urge everyone to be vigilant, but also not to panic.
More than 160,000 American civilians call this island home. While there's no sign of panic here, there is concern.
It's natural to be scared. We're human.
Ashley Flores says she's instructed her 6- and 8-year-old children what to do in the event of a missile attack.
They're in school to follow the teacher's rules. You know, it's scary if mommy and daddy's not there, but as long as you have instructions and you listen, try your best to follow it.
Difficult lessons to teach anyone living in this tropical paradise. Ivan Watson, CNN, Guam.
Just last week, Pyongyang said it had finalized a plan to fire 4 missiles toward the U.S. territory of Guam. State media reported that leader Kim Jong-un would assess the U.S. next move before giving launch orders. Kim would watch a little more the foolish and stupid conduct of the Yankees, a North Korean statement said last week. Both U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Secretary of Defense James Mattis said last week that the U.S. was keeping military options on the table in dealing with North Korea. Tillerson said peaceful diplomatic pressure was the preferred way to get Pyongyang to stop its testing of nuclear-capable ballistic missiles. But he added that the diplomatic approach has to be backed with military threat if North Korea chooses to move forward with destabilizing actions. Mattis also made clear the U.S. willingness to use force if North Korea steps out of line. In close collaboration with our allies, there are strong military consequences if the DPRK initiates hostilities, he said.
It would seem the North Korean leader, he might just be the first to blink.
Well, John, you could say that, but you could also say that what we heard from the Trump administration, the top diplomats on Monday, was that they were putting diplomacy and economic measures first, so they were pulling back from this very bellicose rhetoric we heard from the US president last week. The basic fact is neither side wants to go to war. Kim Jong-un does not want a war. He knows that he would not survive a war. He knows his country would be annihilated. It's been made very clear by the United States. And the United States and certainly South Korea don't want a war. Seoul would be hit extremely hard. There have been some very devastating estimates of casualties. So the basic fact is both sides has been quite bellicose in their rhetoric. Neither side, though, actually wants this to go further, that it absolutely has to before they've made their point. Now, we heard from the South Korean President Moon Jae-in just an hour or so ago. It's Liberation Day here, liberation from the Japanese occupation. Ironically, a day that both North and South Korea celebrate, so they're both united on this particular day. And he did say during that time that if it was up to him, and it is up to him, war will not return to the Korean Peninsula.
Okay. We urge North Korea to stop worsening the situation, immediately stop provocations and threatening behavior. There must be no more war on the Korean Peninsula. Whatever ups and downs we face, the North Korean nuclear situation must be resolved peacefully. I am certain the United States will respond to the current situation calmly and responsibly in a stance that is equal to ours.
But North Korea is saying they're going to wait and see what the Americans do next, obviously referring to next week where there's going to be US-South Korean military drills. The US, with General Dunford here just yesterday, already said they will go ahead, and every time they do annoy North Korea, it's just a case of this time how much higher the tensions are and how much more the North Koreans could be annoyed.